Have you ever wondered what happened to Britain's old seaside resorts? Once packed with families on holiday, these towns were buzzing with laughter, donkey rides, and the smell of fish and chips. But as cheap flights and foreign package holidays took over, many of these once beloved places slowly slipped into decline. Today, they stand as faded echoes of their golden past, remembered fondly but rarely visited. From Redcar to Skegness to Rhyl, these are the 15 seaside resorts that Brits once loved but rarely visit today. On the Essex coast sits Jaywick Sands, a resort that once promised affordable seaside fun but is now infamous for very different reasons. Originally built in the 1930s as a holiday village of cheap chalets, it thrived as Londoners flocked there for sun and sand. But as foreign holidays grew in popularity, Jaywick was left behind, and many of the temporary holiday homes became permanent residences. Today, it's often ranked among the most deprived areas in the UK, with poverty, poor housing, and flooding risks dominating its reputation. The beach is still there, but the amusements and buzz of summer crowds have long gone. Jaywick is a striking reminder of how quickly seaside prosperity can fade, transforming what was once a lively getaway into a community struggling to survive. Its story shows the darker side of Britain's changing holiday habits. Not every coastal town that boomed with visitors could reinvent itself, and Fleetwood is a prime example. Built in the 1830s as one of the first planned seaside resorts in England, it was once seen as an elegant holiday spot for Lancashire families before Blackpool rose to dominance nearby. Fleetwood had attractions like a pier, a boating lake, and clean sandy beaches. But by the late 20th century, its fishing industry collapsed, and tourism had already shifted elsewhere. Unlike Blackpool, which leaned heavily into entertainment, Fleetwood never managed to develop a modern draw. The pier was destroyed by fire, the funfair closed, and visitor numbers dwindled. Today, it's far more of a residential town than a holiday one. While its marine hall and heritage centre still exist, the vibrant tourism trade it once enjoyed is little more than a memory. Fleetwood reflects how competition and economic shifts left some resorts permanently sidelined. Redcar, on the North Yorkshire coast, was once the pride of teesside workers looking for a traditional seaside break. Families would pile onto trains for donkey rides, ice creams, and days on the wide sandy beach. During the 20th century, Redcar's seafront was lined with amusements, arcades, and even a racecourse that added glamour to the town. But as industrial decline hit the region and cheap foreign holidays lured people abroad, Redcar's tourist trade collapsed. Its iconic Coat and Bowl entertainment centre was demolished, and the seafront lost much of its sparkle. In recent years, there have been attempts at regeneration, including the striking Redcar Beacon Tower, but they haven't restored the town's former holiday status. Today, Redcar still has a beach, but it's often quiet, with far fewer holidaymakers than in its heyday. The town represents how once thriving working-class resorts can quickly fade when their traditional visitors move on. Scarborough proudly claims the title of Britain's first seaside resort, dating back to the 17th century when spa waters drew wealthy visitors. By the Victorian age, it had become the North's ultimate holiday destination, complete with grand hotels, theatres, amusement arcades, and bustling beaches. Families returned year after year, and Scarborough remained hugely popular through the mid-20th century. But the tide eventually turned. Package holidays to Spain, Greece, and beyond offered guaranteed sunshine, while Scarborough's fortunes declined. Its once grand South Bay pool was demolished, and the famous futurist theatre was pulled down in 2018, leaving a gap in the cultural landscape. Although Scarborough still attracts day trippers and events like its open-air theatre gigs, the mass summer crowds of its golden era are long gone. Instead of being the go-to resort, it now sits in the shadow of its own history. Scarborough's story shows how even the most iconic destinations can slip into faded glory. Weymouth, on the Dorset coast, was once the jewel of Georgian seaside tourism. King George III himself holidayed there in the late 18th century, cementing its reputation as a fashionable resort. Its sandy beach, promenade, and rows of pastel-coloured Georgian terraces drew in generations of visitors, and for much of the 20th century it thrived as a traditional British seaside getaway. But as times changed, so did Weymouth's fortunes. By the 1980s and 1990s, its popularity dipped as people turned to overseas holidays, and investment in attractions slowed. Though it still sees some tourism, especially due to its location near the Jurassic coast, Weymouth no longer carries the prestige or volume of visitors it once did. Its historic charm remains, but its status as a national holiday hotspot has faded. For many Brits, Weymouth is a name from the past rather than a place to spend their summer holidays. For generations, Southend-on-Sea was the go-to escape for Londoners, famous for having the world's longest pleasure pier. Trains from the capital once carried thousands of day-trippers every weekend, filling its beaches, arcades, and fun fairs. But the rise of budget airlines and package deals abroad gradually stole away its visitors. Southend's golden years as in the mid-20th century gave way to decades of decline, with many attractions closing and the town struggling with a dated image. While regeneration projects, like the Adventure Island theme park and cultural investments, have tried to bring life back, Southend today is a shadow of its former self. It still attracts some families, but not in the same numbers or with the same reputation it once held. For many Brits, it represents the nostalgic memory of cheap traditional seaside days out, rather than a destination to book a full holiday. Southend's story is one of resilience, but also one of lost stature in Britain's seaside history. Once a vibrant resort on the Lincolnshire coast, Cleethorpes built its reputation in the Victorian era as a cheap and cheerful destination for northern industrial workers. Packed trains would deliver families eager for donkey rides, fish and chips, and the lively seafront atmosphere. But as foreign travel became more accessible, Cleethorpes struggled to keep its hold on holidaymakers. Its pier, once bustling with theatres and amusements, shrank in size after fires and redevelopment, symbolising the town's faded appeal. Today, the seafront has a few attractions and arcades, but it's more of a quiet coastal town than a buzzing resort. The wider decline of the fishing industry in nearby Grimsby also hit Cleethorpes hard, reducing its local economy and visitor draw. While it still hosts small events and day trippers, it has long lost the status of being a major holiday hub. Cleethorpes is now remembered more as a childhood holiday spot than a thriving seaside getaway. Few towns symbolise the rise and fall of the traditional British seaside, quite like Great Yarmouth. At its height in the mid-20th century, this Norfolk resort was bursting with holidaymakers, filling its piers, fairgrounds, and endless rows of guest houses. Families flocked for donkey rides, sticks of rock, and evenings in the theatres. Yet as cheap flights abroad drew people away, Great Yarmouth entered a long decline. Many hotels shut down, and parts of the town became rundown. Despite attempts at regeneration, including a restored seafront and its famous pleasure beach still operating, it hasn't recaptured its past glory. Visitor numbers remain far below their peak, and its reputation has suffered compared to flashier resorts, overseas or even within the UK. For locals, Great Yarmouth's downturn has been hard, with poverty and unemployment rising. Though the beach is still wide and golden, the vibrant resort spirit that once defined Yarmouth has mostly faded. It remains a reminder of Britain's changing holiday landscape. Skegness on the Lincolnshire coast was once advertised as "so bracing," a slogan that perfectly captured its appeal for hardy British holidaymakers. In the early to mid-20th century, it was hugely popular, especially with the arrival of the UK's first Butlins holiday camp in 1936. Families loved the mix of sandy beaches, amusements, and affordable fun. But like many other resorts, Skegness declined as sun-seekers turned to Spain and beyond. Its once-packed promenade now sees fewer crowds, and many of the attractions feel dated compared to modern holiday expectations. The Butlins Resort still operates, but it has changed into more of a budget family destination rather than the groundbreaking getaway it once was. While some day trippers still make the journey, Skegness is no longer the thriving holiday giant it was in its heyday. Its story mirrors the wider decline of traditional British seaside culture, where nostalgia remains strong, but visitor numbers do not. Nestled on the County Durham coast, Seaton Carew was once a thriving resort for working-class families in the northeast. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, its sandy beach, promenade and fairground atmosphere drew in crowds from Hartlepool, Middlesbrough and beyond. Visitors enjoyed donkey rides, ice creams and the novelty of a day by the sea. But as holiday habits changed, Seaton Carew's popularity dwindled. Unlike larger resorts, it struggled to modernise or expand its attractions, leaving the town with little to keep tourists coming back. Many of the guest houses closed, and the once bustling boardwalk quieted. Today, Seaton Carew is a peaceful coastal spot, visited mostly by locals or day trippers, but far removed from its glory days as a busy northern resort. Its decline shows how smaller seaside towns often faded the fastest, unable to compete with bigger names or foreign destinations. For many, it's a forgotten gem of Britain's seaside past. Clacton-on-Sea once stood as the pride of the Essex coast, attracting thousands of holidaymakers during its post-war boom. Families came for its grand pier, amusement arcades and theatres, while nearby holiday camps kept the area buzzing through the summer months. But from the 1970s onwards, Clacton faced a sharp decline. The advent of foreign holidays drained its visitor base, leaving its pier and seafront to slowly deteriorate. The once iconic Butlins camp closed in 1983, a symbolic marker of its fading status. Efforts have been made to modernise, with the pier revamped in recent years, but Clacton has never returned to its former glory. Today the town is quieter, often more associated with retirement communities than family seaside fun. Its golden age of laughter-filled promenades and packed summer holidays survives only in memory. Clacton's story reflects the fragility of seaside prosperity, how quickly the centre of British holiday life can be overtaken and forgotten when new horizons open abroad. In its heyday, Rhyl was the jewel of the North Wales coast, famous for its vast fairgrounds, golden beaches and the bustling Ocean Beach amusement park. It was especially popular with working-class families from Liverpool, Manchester and the Midlands, who came by the thousands during the summer months. The seafront thrived with arcades, theatres and family attractions, creating a sense of endless excitement. But by the late 20th century, Ryl's fortunes collapsed. The Ocean Beach Funfair was demolished, hotels shut their doors, and the town gained an unfortunate reputation for decline and deprivation. Regeneration projects have tried to breathe life back into Rhyl, including a modern waterfront and retail parks, but its image as a holiday hotspot has never truly recovered. Today, its beach remains beautiful, but the bustling tourist trade that once defined the town is long gone. Rhyl is now more remembered as a symbol of seaside decline than as a thriving resort, standing as a cautionary tale of changing holiday trends. Whitley Bay, once the shining star of the northeast coast, had its golden era in the mid-20th century. Families flocked from Newcastle and beyond to its Spanish City complex, where funfairs, arcades and dance halls gave the town a festive energy. Its sweeping beach and promenade made it a staple of British summer holidays. But the decline was sharp. From the 1980s onwards, Spanish City shut down, many hotels closed, and Whitley Bay slipped into obscurity. Attempts at regeneration came slowly, with parts of the seafront left derelict for decades. Though the Spanish city dome has been restored as a cultural landmark, the crowds have not returned in the same numbers. Today, Whitley Bay is more of a quiet residential coastal town with occasional day visitors than the booming resort it once was. Its story is a powerful reminder that even iconic landmarks cannot protect a town from decline if broader holiday habits change. Saltburn-by-the-Sea has a quieter story compared to many other resorts, but it's one of lost momentum. Developed in the Victorian period as a fashionable retreat, its cliff lift and pier became symbols of seaside glamour. Crowds once filled its beach, guest houses and promenade, making it a respected name in northern seaside culture. But over time, Saltburn never managed to keep up with larger resorts. The rise of foreign travel, combined with limited investment in new attractions, slowly turned it into a shadow of its former self. Today, Saltburn is appreciated more for its charm and coastal scenery than as a major tourist hub. Surfers and walkers still visit, but the bustling family holidays of the past are gone. It's no longer the household name it once was. Saltburn's gentle decline illustrates how even beautiful locations can slip from national attention when newer, flashier destinations dominate. For many, it's a nostalgic memory rather than a holiday destination. Few towns capture the bittersweet tale of seaside decline as powerfully as Morecambe. Once a thriving Lancashire resort, it boomed in the early 20th century, drawing huge crowds for its promenade, grand hotels, and the legendary Frontierland theme park. The iconic Midland Hotel stood as a symbol of glamour, and families from across the north made annual pilgrimages for sun, sand, and entertainment. But when package holidays abroad took over, Morecambe's fortunes collapsed. Frontierland closed, attractions were demolished, and the seafront fell silent. For decades, the town became synonymous with decline, a sad echo of its golden past. Recent regeneration, including the restoration of the Midland Hotel and proposals for the Eden Project North, shows hope for revival, but Morecambe is still far removed from its heyday. Its decline remains one of the most dramatic in British seaside history, making it the ultimate example of how quickly a once-loved resort can fade when national holiday trends change. And that wraps up our journey through these seaside resorts. If you found this glimpse into the past interesting, don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe for more stories of history, culture, and the forgotten practices that shaped everyday life. See you in the next one.